Welcome back to the cabin. Today is Monday, the 15th of May. I came up for a few days, get some more work done up here. Weather's supposed to be nice this week. When I got into the cabin, temperature was 55 degrees and it's about 75 outside. So I opened all the windows to warm the place up a bit. So the black flies are just starting, but there's a nice breeze today that's keeping most of them away. If it was a still day, I'd have my head net on if I was working outside. And one of the things I want to do this time is cut down those plants in front of the cabin and the rock wall there. They just grow up everywhere. Last time I was here, it was rainy a lot of the time, so I didn't get a chance to get in there and cut them down, but that's one of the things on the agenda this time. And then also, the ferns are just starting to come up. I was lucky the ferns took over my rock wall in front of the cabin. I was wondering what I was going to plant there in amongst the rocks, and the ferns just took over, and I really like the look with the ferns. So they're just starting out. I carried all my stuff in the wheelbarrow, my tools and clothes. These two posts here, 2x4s, they're the jigs I put together to hold up the cross ties. So last trip I leveled two of the cross ties. Let me go up here so you can see. Go way up here. So piece on top is a cross tie going from the front rafter to the back, and this 2x4 going up is just a jig to hold it in place. And there's another one over there, another jig. I've got it clamped to some temporary loft joists with the blue C-clamps. So I got two of those leveled out. There's one of them I get leveled out last trip. So I got two more to do this trip. That'll finish them off. I'll be working on that. So the shower here has become a temporary coat rack or closet, and I'm going to see if I can fix that this trip. I brought up a portable clothes rod, so we'll move that stuff, because eventually the shower has to get hooked up. That's one of the priorities for this year. I got to put sheetrock up on that wall, put some nailers in to nail into, and secure the shower against the outside wall there. And then I can drill holes for the piping, for the drain piping. Well, that should work for right now. That rack is on coasters, so I can roll it around when the Murphy bed comes down. I can roll it out of the way. I think it'll fit in there just fine when the Murphy bed comes down, because there's like a foot clearance there. May have to roll it out when the bed comes down and then roll it back in. Now I got my shower back, so I can hook it up one of these days, but that's not going to be this trip. Continuing with leveling the cross ties, today's project is to get this cross tie and this one leveled out. Of course, I got to do some work beforehand to get to that. My loft joists there are, I guess, 16 inches apart, and that's not enough for me to squeeze through on a ladder. So I have some 2x8s here, and I'm going to move those 2x8s, a couple of them, over alongside the south wall and that'll let me climb out there and loosen the screws on that cross tie, and then I can put my jigs up, one on each side, and level that one out, and then this will be the last one. I actually don't know if I need this one because it is right over the edge of the loft. That's the last loft joist. So the front and back of the cabin should be tied together pretty good with the loft joist, but I'm going to use this more for a railing so people don't walk off the end of the loft and fall 8 feet to the main floor. So what I mentioned, I think, before is these are temporary loft joists, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they are only here so I can do the tongue and groove under the rafters. So I can stand on to do that. And eventually they will come out and we'll be able to look up at the high ceiling from down below. All right, so I gotta move this piece of plywood and maybe 3 of these 2x8s. All right, so I got 2x8 planks over there for me to kneel on, and I can loosen that side of the cross tie. I got my one jig holding this end up. I go over here, the other jig's holding that side up, and they're both clamped to floor joists. So actually the first thing I'm going to do is go out and unscrew this end, both screws. I'm using log screws. They screw in, but they have the holding strength of a 1/4-inch bolt. So anyway, so there's 2 each in each one of the cross ties. So I'll remove those 2. This end will float free and this will hold it in place. And then I'll come back. You can see how it's the angle there. Then I'll come back and remove these 2 screws. Set it down until it's level, then put those back in, and then go back to the other side and do the same there. I finished leveling out the cross ties. The difficult part was the last one because I had to move some plywood flooring in the loft to fit that right jig through. But got it done. And if I move down here slightly, you can see they're all lined up. They're all level. I needed to do that before I could start nailing up tongue and groove under the roof rafters. It's like fall up here today. Temperatures in the 50s, there's a nice breeze, so there's no bugs at all. That's the advantage of that. I cleared off most of the weeds and unwanted vegetation from the wall here in front of the cabin. What's left are the ferns that are emerging, and it'll cover that wall in another month, make it look pretty. This is my marine battery, which I use for odds and ends. Up here, I use it today for the 12-volt water pump. Then I'm pumping water from the well into storage tanks. I have it hooked up to my solar panels right now to recharge it. And this is the rest of my battery bank as it is now. I have to go down into the basement and turn off the circuit breaker to the battery and to the solar panel, disconnect it, then hook the charging wires back up to the main battery bank, then go down the cellar and turn on the charge controller and then the solar panel again. These are the two water storage tanks up on the hill. The one on the right here, I had a little problem last year when I was draining it. I forgot to open the fill cap on top of the tank, and as a result I had a vacuum inside and some of it collapsed. But we're going to see if it still holds water. And this other tank here, I just finished putting this plastic around it. So now I have plastic around both tanks. It's not that difficult. I just slide it between the bars and the plastic of the tank. And the tank's empty now, so it's easy to slide it between the bars in the tank. And then once it, of course, fills up, then it'll be in there solid. So I don't know how many seasons that's going to last, but if I get two years out of it, that'll be fine for me. I mean, a lot of people say to paint the tanks black, and a lot of other people say no, because the paint can migrate into the water through the plastic. So I'm just going to cover them with black plastic for the time being. And then that yellow cap on the bottom, that's a cap that came with the tank, so that's just a little extra security in case the valve there leaks. These valves on these tanks are not the greatest. Over here on this tank, I rigged up a exterior ball valve to attach to the tank. So I'll do the same thing for the other tank as well. Next step is to run the hose up here and get the cement cover off the well, and I'll run the video camera when I do that so you can see how I do that. I flushed out the water line and then put it into the fill cap on the top of the tank, and as you can hear, water's going in the tank. So just have to keep an eye on this. I am guessing it's going to take 2 hours to fill this up, so we'll check back later. This tank is about 2/3 full now, and a lot of it has popped out where it was crushed in before from the vacuum. So the back here, that used to be way in, that popped out. All down here popped back out again. And the best thing of all is there's no leaks. I didn't know if when it collapsed onto itself whether it would damage the plastic with holes. There's a section there that is still in. That section in back popped out, so there's a section down in here that still needs to come out, but the water's only up to about here. We'll see what the rest of it does, but so far so good. Now this tank is full now. So the damaged tank is full. Over here on the side, it popped back out. Popped out in the front here. The top is a little bit dented because the vacuum actually bent those metal rods last fall. So yeah, that's full and there's no leaks, which is the thing I was worried about. So once this water's cold coming out of the ground, once it warms up in a few weeks, I think the plastic is a little bit softer. It might return to more of its normal shape, but I'll take this. This is great. These are hurricane ties, and they attach to the rafter and to the wall stud. And the idea being, if there's a hurricane, which there are not up here, it will hold the rafters to the wall of the house so the roof doesn't come off. So I'm going to put these in just for the heck of it. And problem is, you're just supposed to nail them in. When I went to nail them in previously, the wood got so hard that the nails bent. So I'll drill a pilot hole first and then put the nail in after. So let's get the first couple set. That's much easier than previously. Now we'll attach the upper piece here. I'm just going to do a couple holes in each one, and I'm just going to put these up every other rafter. Instead of 16 inches, it'll be 32 inches on center. This is just overkill anyway, so. But I need to do this before I start the tongue and groove on the underside of the rafters here. Well, that's going to do it for this trip. I got to head back now. Luckily, I'm driving against the traffic, so drive should be okay. So if you like the channel, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you back at the cabin next time.